My name is Eric Rock. I'm Director of Product Marketing at Vistara, and welcome to today's webinar on Managing Modern IT, Simplify IT Operations by Unifying Element Management. Gary Garcia, our Vice President of Business Development, will be presenting today's webinar, and we'll be talking about how you can simplify IT operations by unifying element management, and he'll be using FlexPod as one example of a converged infrastructure specification you can use to that end. Gary, go ahead and take it away.
Hi guys, thank you for joining us on our multi-part series of webinars around managing modern IT. A quick background about why we're talking about modernizing IT and managing modern IT. Vistara is a monitoring, management, orchestration, and cloud management tool set that's been launched in January of this year. Technology has been around for about 8 years, mainly used by managed service providers and OEM environments, and now it's available for the enterprise. And so that lineage gives us some depth of experience in managing hybrid and distributed and rather complex IT environments. So we've got a good customer base, and we're serving a broad set of different customers that have diverse different use cases of high technology and manufacturing, online auctions, that sort of thing. We have great alliances with technology partners, enterprise infrastructure providers, as well as a multitude of software vendors that allow us to manage a diverse IT environment. We own our own technology, and we deliver our technology as a cloud platform. So that's who we are, and that's why we have some information to share from our experiences about managing modern IT. So just kind of level set, when we look at the environment and we look at what IT practitioners are actually having to deal with is there's a number of physical devices in the infrastructure, ranging from desktops and laptops, tablets, mobile devices, to servers that may or may not be virtualized. There's zones of virtualization, and then some IT practitioners have actually gotten to the place where they can manage private cloud infrastructure, and then of course anybody with a credit card can now source external private cloud infrastructure or public cloud infrastructures. Challenge that the IT practitioners are facing today is that really they've got to express governance across all of these different consumption models, and that's really kind of led to a situation where the IT practitioners have one set of tools for mobile devices, and another set of tools for the virtualization layer, and another set of management tools for automation and orchestration and patch management, and then of course all the public cloud solutions come with their own set of tools. This is particularly difficult in a situation where we have things like, computers and operating systems that are consumed by the end user. With this, when we look at desktops and mobile devices and tablets, what we really have is an enterprise where everybody is an IT administrator. It's just kind of a situation that we've wound up in, where we empowered people to use desktops and use technology on demand and put it in their own hands. But the consequence of that is that now we have, in a company with 1,000 employees, we have 1,000 desktop administrators and 1,000 cell phone and tablet administrators. For the IT practitioner, this means that the data we're supposed to be safeguarding is all over the place. And there's yet another set of tools that we wind up having to interface with and manage in order to kind of grapple with the security questions around having this data in taxis in New York and in people's living rooms, and even the even the best IT organizations wind up with multiple tools. And the problem with multiple tools is that point tools are great at what they do, and the thing is like when we look at enterprise class hardware, they generally come with really good management tools that allow the consumer to exploit the absolute best features of the enterprise class hardware. But generally speaking, these element management tools don't really play well with others. And so when you have, once you buy 2 enterprise class elements, you wind up in a situation where the IT practitioner has to integrate data from those 2 tools to do reporting. Once you get into the situation where you have multiple tools to manage the infrastructure, you wind up in a place where you're doing a couple of things. One is you're working for the software vendors in order to manage the integrations between all of the elements of the infrastructure. And then second is you're winding up every month having to integrate all of the data from multiple sources to create one source of truth, to do one set of reports. So here's the thing: is that monitoring and management tools have to evolve to solve this problem, right? So the IT practitioner probably doesn't want to spend their time working for the software vendors and the hardware manufacturers to integrate all of their tools. And when we look at the arc of technology in other markets, like in the consumer land, there have been these great revolutions where, for example, Sony created a great market for personal music consumption, and they didn't evolve fast enough, and Apple took that market away. And there's not really a lot of people using dedicated devices like an iPod, and now most people are using things like an iPhone, a multi-purpose device, to do data consumption, or to do music consumption. And that's created an opportunity for cloud delivery of music. And it's the same thing when we think about monitoring and management, orchestration, and cloud management tools. The big 4, when we look at things like BMC and CA and Tivoli, they've got a million different tools that they'd like to provide to you and that they'd like you to integrate. But they're still mostly software that you own, or they're in the traditional application service provider model where there's one instance per customer delivered in a semi-cloud model. Those traditional kind of deployment models aren't really ready for a platform of innovation. They're not true cloud models. And it is the true cloud delivery models that are going to be the thing that allow IT practitioners to unify management of all of the elements of the IT infrastructure. So that's going to be pretty important. There's a question on the webinar that asks, who is Vistara used for? In this case, we're talking about IT practitioners and how Vistara revolutionizes and unifies element management for the enterprise. I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar that the technology has been used by a number of managed service providers and OEMs to deliver professional and managed services to their customers. So it has those capabilities. But in this webinar, we're talking about unifying element management and why unifying element management is important for the IT practitioners. Okay, so when we look at all of the big 4, then on average, I just kind of did a quick survey of the biggest, most popular management tools in the marketplace. And the interesting thing is that their proposal is that on average, they'd like you to buy 6 products from them just to manage something called cloud, and another 6 modules to manage the service management portion of the IT lifecycle. And it occurs to me in my experience when I was an IT practitioner that what I remember is that model caused me to spend a lot of money to acquire some software, which then started a project, often with professional services, where I had to integrate all of these tools myself. And it brings up the question, why have IT practitioners accepted for so long that their role is necessarily the role of an integrator? As we move into the cloud consumption models and we're trying to unify all of the elements of the IT infrastructure into a set of services, IT practitioners really want to be more like service providers. And so we're at this moment of inflection where it's kind of worth considering whether we want to continue being integrators when it comes to the tools that we manage our infrastructure, or if we should be consuming those things as a service. So we should think about what happens once we have the ability to bring together the ticketing system, the service delivery pieces, along with the monitoring, management, and orchestration piece. One of the things that happens is that instead of having to integrate all these tools, the software, if you can get all this capability in one platform, you don't have to do the integrations, obviously, but you also don't have to do what's called application hopping. And that is where, and you're probably all familiar with this, where the IT practitioner has to go from a ticketing system to a monitoring system, or perhaps they see on the monitoring system an incident, which they then have to log into a ticketing system, and then go to another system to access the server or to do orchestrations, and perhaps another system to create service catalogs. If we can bring all those things together, there's some benefits that happen. The first, of course, is that we're not spending time changing context as we work through the IT lifecycle. But there's also the benefit of just being able to have one environment in which we can communicate to our customers about how we're doing on service delivery. So this idea of not having to application hop applies not only to the infrastructure that we own, but it also applies to integrating the services that we've built inside our data center with the services that we source in the external public cloud. Now, the challenges that most IT practitioners have been wrangling as they manage public cloud include things like, being able to manage identities and roles and permissions in the public cloud, and unifying that with the internal infrastructure. Security, audit, of course, are important concerns in public cloud. How do you actually know when things have changed? I mean, we can find incidents, or perhaps in public cloud we assume that if an instance stops, we simply restart it. But being able to measure the effectiveness of the public cloud solution and compare that to the home-built solutions, the solutions that are inside our own data center, well, that's actually been a pretty difficult process. And the consumption of external private cloud typically provides some interesting challenges as we go through the process of trying to do governance models, so change controls and change approvals, integrating patch management on external public cloud with internal private cloud and internal physical infrastructure. That's a really tough job. And then being able, of course, just to be able to have a dashboard and see how all of the internal and external services are doing, along with end-of-month reporting. So unifying hybrid clouds has been kind of a tough challenge. And what we're kind of seeing is that this is a perfect role for a cloud-delivered model of monitoring and management tools. So if we have a cloud-delivered monitoring and management tools, the big benefit there is that intrinsically, a cloud-delivered managed monitoring and management infrastructure wants to, by its very nature, integrate all of these things between the public and the private cloud, and it naturally will want to go ahead and unify the governance models and the role-based access models for all of this. So this is really, we're at this moment where while we probably all have significant investments in traditional tools that are on-premise and the tools that came with our enterprise-class hardware, it is probably time to think about making the leap to unified IT management. And what I mean by that is we're probably not going to abandon all of the tools we already own. My experience is that, a database administrator really likes their tools. If they're using Foglight, they're going to use Foglight. Similarly, if the network admin has their favorite, network analyzer, they're going to use that, and that's fine. When we're talking about making the leap to unifying IT management, the sweet spot here is being able to find a mechanism by which we can get 80% of the operational data, operational activity, and probably all of the operational metrics for perhaps level 1, level 2 engineering, where really most of the work and most of the interface with the business is. If we can get that all into one management layer, we've probably solved a pretty significant part of the unification challenge. And right now is probably a really good time to do that. So what does it take to get this done? When we start managing for example, a private cloud, there's a lot of elements that you would really need to have in order to unify element management. So if we take, for example, some private cloud solutions like vSpecs or FlexPod, FlexPod's got Cisco UCS Nexus, or Cisco Nexus switches, UCS servers, and it's got the NetApp FAS storage. It's a very prescriptive architecture with a, it's got some flexibility in there, but the interconnect is very much a repeatable and reliable reference architecture. But in order to unify, for example, UCS manager with the Nexus switch management, along with the NetApp on-command and NetApp ONTAP interfaces, you kind of have to have API-level integrations with the elements. So, having API-level integrations with Cisco UCS so that we actually can use things like service profiles, and API-level integration with the NetApp FAS controller so that you can do things like manage snapshots and thin provisioning. Being able to actually expose the value of these enterprise class elements is a key part of being able to unify management. In addition to that, being able to have the templates so that you can apply to a known reference architecture, either to create your own reference architecture or to measure against an existing reference architecture. Having templates so that you can tell whether infrastructure has deviated from a known standard over time, that's another piece of this unification set of requirements. Ultimately, since IT is about service delivery to the business, being able to also create service catalogs seems like it's an important piece. So we have another question here. The question is, can Vistara, for example, integrate the tools into one tool, one pane of glass, so that we can? Did you plan to show what the platform dashboard looks like? So yeah, I'll be happy to bring up the tool, and I'll also mention that there's two kinds of unification that we're talking about here. One is the unification of the elements, which is what we're talking about in this webinar, and the other is if you have legacy tools, being able to integrate with those tools and operate cooperatively in an environment so that you have a layer of management above the element tools that you choose to keep. That's another important piece. And so these are all criteria that you probably would want to aspire to as you choose moving towards unified IT management. So as we are looking for the tools that unify element management, you want to make sure that we are achieving the goal of reducing application hopping, aggregating and collecting knowledge from your subject matter experts, and then sharing that knowledge in the form of runbooks and repeatable automations. These are things that are going to make IT more efficient over time. And if you have a tool set that has unified management of multiple kinds of enterprise class hardware, well, then unlike most of the other tools that we see in the marketplace, you're really able to aggregate all of these automations and all of this wisdom in one place rather than in multiple places where it becomes difficult to manage. Integrating with tools that you love, but still being able to show them in one pane of glass is pretty important, and then obsoleting shelfware, and tools that you don't like, that's going to save you money over time. And then cloud consumption models allow you to pay for what you use, but if you're not using it, well then you you wouldn't continue expanding that infrastructure. But the key thing here is not spending time integrating other people's software. So the benefits here are that the level 1 and level 2 IT staff, get to work in one context for most of their reportable outcomes, and that means that you have one source of truth, and the business has clarity on how the IT is doing on delivering on their service deliverables. Centralizing IT operations, and this, for large enterprises, this is really also partly about knowledge sharing and delivering from a central center of excellence, as well as gaining that one source of truth. In a SaaS platform, of course, the software upgrades itself. So when you have software you own, of course, you're having to patch it and figure out how to keep all the modules working together. With the SaaS platform, in particular with Vistara, the ticketing system upgrades at the same time with the monitoring capability. Because SaaS platforms live in the cloud, they have particular developments that are made to make it more secure, not only because some of the logic for the management environment lives in the cloud, but also because we can actually add value in a way that applications that are on-premise cannot add security. So an example of that is, I've used log analysis tools or session recording tools that were on-premise, and when you do that, you have this problem that the administrators who are making changes in the infrastructure may also gain access to the store that is auditable. And in a cloud model, it's completely different. In a cloud model, all of the auditable data lives in a cloud where it's not accessible to be tampered with, and that's good both for security, but also for knowledge collection. And then, of course, cloud platforms are infinitely scalable. So Vistara is uniquely capable in that it has these capabilities. We built it with with the idea of unifying element management in mind. We unify element management and federate hybrid IT, and it's really an infrastructure that's built to manage modern IT. With that, we've kind of covered off on most of the capabilities of Vistara. If you can just scroll through the green slides here. We'll take the final questions, and then I'll bring up the web interface and show you the product.
Talking about how Vistara gives you a unified view of your existing tools, and also built-in analytics, so you can monitor the state of your system and respond in a timely fashion. It also has built-in support for audit and compliance. All the administrative actions you take through Vistara are automatically recorded, so that you can later audit the actions of your administrators. That's absolutely fantastic for compliance. And it helps you identify best practices so you can spread them throughout your organization. Then we also support secure remote sourcing of service delivery, so customers who want to have the option of securely sourcing management services from providers they have approved anywhere in the world. You can also, it's also really easy to get started with Vistara. We can set you up over the web, and all you have to do to get started is install the Vistara Gateway, which is a lightweight, hardened virtual machine instance that will go ahead and discover your IT infrastructure so you can then manage it. Also, as Gary alluded to, we live in a mobile world, and Vistara has built-in support for managing your mobile devices. You can track the location of your phones, your tablets, and if they get lost and can't be recovered, you can even wipe them to avoid data loss. Finally, Vistara is a fully multi-tenant architecture, so that's part of how we deliver all this functionality in a cost-effective way, and enables us to innovate quickly in response to customer requests.
Vistara has what's called a virtual gateway, and the Vistara Gateway is a hardened virtual machine that lives on the customer premise. We also have a little software agent that can be installed on Windows and Linux boxes so that we can get really close to the application management, or for very lightweight deployments in remote offices or donut shops or whatever. Those gateways, either the Vistara gateway or the vCare agent, communicate over a secure transport to the web to the Vistara cloud. And the way, because we are a SaaS platform, the way customers interface then with their infrastructures, they log into any web browser, and they are then able to monitor, manage, orchestrate, and do help desk ticketing for all of their infrastructure. And that, it's worth mentioning that that's not only the level 1, level 2, and level 3 engineers, but we also have the ability to have business users log into Vistara, and then they are able to access things like the ticketing system and the service catalog. I'll go ahead and show everybody what Vistara looks like. So I've just logged in as myself into the Vistara environment. You can see we've got a planned maintenance notification. We can get rid of that. So when you log into the Vistara environment, you get a dashboard, and you can see what's going on in the infrastructure. I'm kind of just demoing in this environment a very large enterprise that has maybe operations in multiple locations. And what we're able to do then is to see all of the infrastructure, desktops, servers, network devices by category, or we can browse right down into the elements and see how all of the infrastructure is doing. So now what we're really able to do here is we're actually able to begin seeing the virtual infrastructure, printers, mobile devices, either by type, by group, or by site. So you have a lot of power in how you're able to filter the different elements. There's an integrated service desk in the same context, and the ability to do jobs, scripts, and time-based access, as well as automated reporting and an alert browser that allows us to see not only what's going on in our infrastructure through our own monitoring, but we can also ingest alerts from external tools. So really unifying the management of the infrastructure even in a multi-tool environment. What we'd like to do is we'd like to actually offer you the ability to do two things. If we go to www.vistarait.com, there's two things there. One, there's a number of demonstration videos that are up there, and there's some collateral about how all of this works and take screenshots of the various elements of the infrastructure. But the other thing is, if you just give us an email to sales@vistarait.com, we'll schedule a demo for you and take you through the whole infrastructure. The product, if I were to take you through all of the elements, it's got, of course, the service desk is the subject of a whole hour. The infrastructure orchestration and management, we could go deep on that. So if you schedule a demo with us and let us know, what your pain points are, then we can take you through all of the elements there. So with that, if you have questions, let's go ahead and type them in, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, we do have a couple questions here under the questions tab, Gary. One is coming in from Norman. He's asking, so just be sure that I'm understanding Vistara focuses on enterprise environments. Do you want to address that, Gary?
Yes. So Vistara it does work on enterprises. Since it's a cloud platform, it's perfectly applicable to small and medium businesses also. But it's quite capable of handling multiple site implementations, multiple data centers, and its lineage is it comes from the managed service provider environment. So it's quite capable of handling very large implementations, as well as small and medium businesses.
By the way, if you want a more detailed demo, we'd be happy to arrange that offline.
All right, guys, that's our webinar. Thank you very much for attending, and look for the next webinar in our Managing Modern IT series. Eric, perhaps you can just plug the next set of webinars and let them know what's coming up next.
So next week we're going to do a webinar on cloud service metrics, moving from speeds and feeds to doing metrics that actually measure the success and performance of a composited service that is an agglomeration of both hardware and software and services. So doing unified measuring of service success and performance for cloud services. Mahesh Ramachandran, our Senior Director of Product Management, and myself will be doing that webinar, so we look forward to having you register for that. In the meantime, you can also see demonstrations of some of the functionality of Vistara on our website, vistarait.com, on the demos page, and we look forward to talking to you further. Thanks very much for attending today's webinar.